Welcome to WCW Greed, live from Jacksonville, Florida, the last pay-per-view ever produced by WCW. It's a night of uncertainty for World Championship Wrestling. Tomorrow night on Nitro, the fans of WCW, along with those working in the company, are going to learn a whole lot more about the fate of WCW. But tonight at Greed, the roster are working matches without knowing what lies ahead. You gotta feel bad for a lot of the younger superstars not knowing if they'll have jobs in just a few weeks' time. But tonight they're going to compete inside the ropes, and I'm not expecting things to magically improve. You don't imagine morale being all that high. Just over 5,000 are in attendance, around 50,000 bought Greed on pay-per-view. Our main event features DDP taking on Scott Steiner for the world belt. We've got Booker T's return to pay-per-view when he faces Rick Steiner for the US belt. But we kick off with what Tony Schiavone calls a bonus match. Kwee taking on Jett. Jett's impressed WCW fans, particularly with his win over Das Wunderkind on Thunder earlier in the week. His name gets mentioned quite a lot when folks talk about underrated wrestlers during WCW's final days, and he shows off his agility right away with a backflip on the outside before hitting Kwee with a sidekick. Jett then goes upstairs and he comes off the top rope with a big crossbody, and back inside the ring he performs a unique corner leg drop while Kwee's yet to get started. A pendulum submission doesn't get Jett the win, and we then learn that Jason isn't afraid to take bumps either when he gets thrown out of the ring. Kwee can't keep his momentum though after missing a dive through the middle ropes, and so Jett replies with an apron handstand DDT, which we've seen Matt Hardy do in the past, but he doesn't seem to do it anymore. Jett comes back in with a buckshot lariat. He then performs a standing moonsault. He's definitely getting his stuff in and it's going over really well with the audience, but he then gets dumped out of the ring, and great work by the cameraman here. Angry Allen then comes out as Kwee gets physical around the ringside area, but Angry Allen's nowhere near as interesting as this WCW newcomer. Kwee performs a Luthez press. He bangs Jett's head off the mat repeatedly, and he wastes a lot of time trying to get heat from the audience. His time's much better spent when applying a chinlock, and the crowd chants Kwee sucks as Angry Allen goes to work at the middle rope. Jason then gets set up for a superplex, and I almost jumped out of my seat when Jett went for a powerbomb and Kwee countered with a Hurricane Rana. Was absolutely not expecting Kwee to counter it, and the crowd didn't either. Excellent stuff right here. The two get up, we continue on with a tilt-a-whirl facebuster from Kwee, but Jett answers with his shockwave back elbow. Jason then looks to end it with a crash landing, but Kwee avoids it, though Kwee still can't end it following a Northern Light suplex. Man, this opening match has been great. What the hell's going on? Kwee takes a moment on the outside after the two men run into each other, and Jett decides to play possum. Kwee then walks the ropes for an elbow drop that he misses. This allows Jett to perform the crash landing, and Jett wins this Greed opening match. A surprisingly good showcase bout right here, and probably the best match I've ever seen Kwee perform in. It's a shame Jett joined WCW at the wrong time. The finals of the Cruiserweight Tag Team Tournament's up next, and look at those belts, man. I like how they've got a bit of an old school flavour going on, but we unfortunately won't be seeing them for very long. It's Kidman and Rey Mysterio taking on Elix Skipper and Kid Romeo, though I do wish it was Air Raid taking on the Filthy Animals tonight at Greed. This Kid Romeo kid does nothing for me at all. He holds his own against Kidman in the early going, and he also displays some good teamwork when Skipper tags in. Primetime struggles a little though after a Kidman Hurricane Rana and a Mysterio guillotine leg drop, and things look even worse for Elix after another Hurricane Rana sends him to the outside. Instead of the obligatory dives to the outside that usually follow, all four men brawl at the rampway. Some great stuff here as Elix gets hip tossed onto his own partner from the ramp, and the Filthy Animals follow up with Kidman performing a crossbody and Mysterio performing a seated senton. The end may be near, ladies and gents, but the young cats are still giving it their all, so fair play to them. The Animals show more good teamwork inside the ring, but Kid Romeo attacks Billy Boy from the apron and on the outside. This allows the bad guys to take the lead for a while, with Romeo performing a wheelbarrow bulldog back inside the ring, followed by a sit-down front suplex. Elix tags in illegally, and the heel team distract the referee so they can cheat as much as possible. However, when Skipper brings Kidman to the top rope, it's a big old BK bomb, and Mysterio's able to come in and fire up a little. Crossbodies, tornado DDTs. Mysterio manages to get Skipper on the outside, which sets him up nicely for the next spot. Rey goes upstairs where he delivers a swanton bomb, and he rolls to his feet in order to take out Primetime with a dive through the middle ropes. Not to be outdone, Kid Romeo performs a top rope crossbody to the outside, and Kidman decides now's a great time to pull off a shooting star press. Apparently, he calls this move the Kidmakaze, so that's the Kid Crusher in the Kidmakaze. It's almost like Billy Kidman doesn't like children. Here's Rey Mysterio with a sunset powerbomb to Skipper. Billy and Romeo get in the ring for a reverse suplex from Kidman. Elix then performs a Tiger suplex and Rey's kept in place for a Kid Romeo leg drop, but the Animals show off their double team skills too with a powerbomb and splash combo. We reach the end of yet another good match with Rey pulling off an assisted forearm smash to prime time. The Animals then have a chance to finish it, but Rey opts to go after Romeo instead of Elix. Kidman and Elix end up on the outside. Kid Romeo catches Rey when Mysterio tried a lion salt, and Kid Romeo wins it with his scoop brainbuster. Elix, Skipper and Kid Romeo are the inaugural WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Champions, and just for the record, there'd only be 2 teams that ever hold these championships, meaning Romeo and Skipper's reign doesn't last all that long. Another good match here at WCW Greed. We know what usually happens during WCW pay-per-views, so don't get too excited just yet. The Magnificent Seven had some issues on Nitro. Someone attacked Medeja and no one knows who did it. Buff Bagwell was filming the group backstage. He set his camera down to change the battery and this was when the attack happened. So tonight Bagwell's brought his own cameraman to Greed just to make sure the same thing doesn't happen again. Ric Flair says here that Scott Steiner's in a bad mood and he maybe doesn't trust the Magnificent Seven. Animal says Scott's really paranoid and he wants to know what happened on Nitro. So Bagwell says he'll go and find Scott to put his mind at ease. Also on Nitro this past week, Stacy Keibler revealed that her pregnancy was all a hoax and her real baby is the mecca of manhood, Shawn Stasiak. Yeah, so David Flair went absolutely psychotic all for nothing. You evil, evil bastards. This match featuring Stasiak and Bam Bam Bigelow was thrown together at the last minute. Bam Bam got offended that Stasiak called the fans fat and bald when Bam Bam himself is fat and bald. Not even joking. So we go back to Greed and Stacy introduces Stasiak, who comes to the ring with a brand new entrance and new generic music. Fantastic. Shawn says he's a top wrestling star. He's also the star of the Shawn and Stacy show. He calls the fans fat, toothless losers, just like Bam Bam Bigelow, and he threw some photos of himself into the crowd before Bam Bam made his way down to the ring. Unfortunately, the match quality took a nosedive with this one. Loads of strikes and not many wrestling moves. Loads of stalling inside and outside the ring, particularly from Shawn Stasiak, and interference on the outside which allowed Shawn to take control. Shawn tries to break the monotony with a top rope crossbody. We go right back to strikes and chokeholds before Bigelow performs a snapmare. Bam Bam then goes upstairs and he delivers his diving headbutt, and as Shawn kicks out, Stacy gets on the apron. Bigelow signals for the greetings from Asbury Park, but he and the referee get distracted by Stacy. This allows Shawn to spray something in Bigelow's eyes, and Shawn wins it with a hangman's neckbreaker. A blinded Bigelow gets tended to on the outside, and Shawn tries to cheer him up with an 8x10. It doesn't seem to work. So Shawn goes back to Stacy and the two share a kiss or two before Greed moves on. The downward spiral has begun, ladies and gents. We go backstage where security cameras capture Ernest Miller telling Miss Jones to stay in the back and stay out of his match featuring Chris Kanyon. That match is coming up a bit later on. Romeo and Skipper are then seen celebrating their title win, and after putting their belts on, the two get a bit too excited. They hug before backing off from each other to share a manly handshake. So I'm not sure where WCW wanted this to go, or if it was totally innocent. Who knows? Back in the ring, we've got a match I really couldn't care less for. It's Mike Awesome and Lance Storm taking on Konnan and Hugh Morrus. It really is a case of bad booking here in the run up to the match, because even though we've got some really good talent in the ring, WCW have done an unbelievable job of drying up Lance Storm versus Hugh Morrus. It's a feud that wasn't good to begin with, yet they just kept booking these guys in matches together. The teams brawled on the outside before Mike Awesome and Morrus went to work in the ring. One stiff clothesline put Morrus on the mat, and Lance tagged in to deliver a few chops. Chops that Morrus no-sold before throwing Lance in the corner. Storm delivers a thumb to the eye, but he still takes a power slam seconds later, so Awesome tagged in again for a big boot and a big leg drop. Brother. Man, I really want to look at this match and base my opinion only on what happens tonight, but I have zero interest in seeing these guys perform. You guys know I'm all for repetitive punishment, seeing as I've covered the whole Monday Night War, but this is this is too much. Lance is in and he applies a front face lock. He releases it to get a cheap shot on Konnan. Konnan punches back, and this results in Lance and Morrus falling into each other. Both guys tag out, Konnan's on fire as he takes out both men and Awesome takes the rolling clothesline, but when he goes for the K Factor, Awesome comes back with another clothesline. Team Canada keep Konnan in their corner and the heels are going to work on keeping K-Dog away from Morrus. They do this both inside and outside the ring while shutting down any comeback attempts, and this is what we're going to see until the very end of the match. This also means Morrus is going to come in for the heroic comeback, so until then Konnan takes a ton of punishment. Drop kicks, pile drivers, a chin lock, which was totally uncalled for. Lance goes upstairs and I think he realises he made a mistake with his positioning, but he still jumps off and K-Dog gets a boot up. This spot looked pretty shit. Lance and Konnan run into each other and this is when the hot tag happens. A fresh Hugh Morrus gets in the ring and he goes after Team Canada with punches, a spinning wheel kick and a few corner splashes, though he gets stopped with a Lance Storm super kick and Awesome follows up with his top rope splash. Konnan has to break the cover afterwards and he and Lance head outside. This allows Morrus to perform a German suplex and the funny man goes up for the no laughing matter. Lance causes a distraction which allows Mank to recover, and our match ends with an Awesome bomb and Team Canada scoring a pinfall win. Hey, at least the right team won. I do admit to being overly harsh here, and I will say the action in the ring was spot on except for that Lance Storm top rope move. But again, you'll look at this one very differently if you've been watching WCW for the past lot of months. The storyline and feud is totally played out, and Team Canada desperately need to move on to something else. The security cameras catch the Rhodes family talking about their upcoming match with Double J and Ric Flair. Dusty says Flair's gonna kiss his ass and he even gets 240 burritos delivered to the locker room so his arse is extra smelly. Hope he gave that DoorDash guy a good tip. Buff Bagwell's continuing his documentary by interviewing Rick Steiner. Steiner says he's gonna, and I quote, thump Booker T's butt later tonight. In regards to brother Scott, Rick says Big Poppa Pump will be fine as soon as he finds out who attacked Nadeja on Nitro, though he also says Buff should have hired a female to operate his camera because the guy behind the camera is a total loser. Buff and Lex Luger face tag team champions Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Haire later tonight. Chucky P says we'll find out who really deserves to hold the tag team belts when the match is over, and Sean says totally buffed will have to kill them to win the tag team championships. This has to rank up there as one of the most generic tag team promos ever committed to film. Back at the arena and we get a graphic that says Cruiserweight Tag Team Championship Tournament. No idea why, because that little piece of business was already taken care of earlier tonight. What we are going to see though is the singles Cruiserweight title getting defended by Chavo Guerrero when he faces Sugar Shane Helms. We've got a chance to get back on track with this one. Sugar Shane once again comes out with his new entrance and the Nitro Girls before the champ makes his way down to the ring, and we start off with a headlock that stays applied for a pretty long time. I'm not worried too much, they're just getting ready to go all guns blazing, I'm sure. Chavo almost takes his opponent's head off with a hook clothesline, though when he goes for a back suplex, it gets countered. Sugar Shane performs a gut wrench suplex before going to the second rope for a Jerry Lawler fist drop. Shane then goes for the Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's way too early. Chavo easily gets out and the challenger takes an exploder suplex. Chavo messes with his opponent in the corner before slowing things down again with an STF. This slowing of the match continues as Chavo moves into a leg lock followed by a Muda lock. Shane Douglas, take notes. When Chavo gets done, he scoops Helms up for a back suplex, and after the two struggle to gain any kind of advantage, Chavo takes control again with a DDT. Sugar Shane's struggling big time here, and he continues to struggle following a dropkick in the corner. Helms gets a short reprieve when he gets sent to the outside. He stops Chavo's springboard attack and we think Sugar Shane's going to go on offense for a bit. However, the champion comes right back after getting sent inside the ring and we see a dive from the top rope to the outside. This match has simply not displayed Shane Helms at his best, and it's kinda disappointing honestly. He's now going to fire up and get some offense in before the end of the bout, but it still hasn't been a great match for Sugar Shane at all. He pulls off a facebreaker back in the ring, and after failing a backslide, he opts instead for a neckbreaker. After a short break, the two get up and Chavo takes a sugar smack while standing on the apron, but no high-risk offense follows. Instead, Chavo gets brought back inside the ring, and when Shane misses another sugar smack, Chavo performs a sit-out inverted DDT, and then Chavo looks to end it with his tornado DDT. The move gets blocked, and Shane manages to perform the Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's a kick out from the champion. So Chavo gets sent to the outside and we see Shane's impressive top rope crossbody that Scott Hudson calls the frog crossbody. A second crossbody back in the ring is equally as impressive, but when Shane tries another top rope move, it gets countered. Chavo then gets Shane in position for a vertebreaker, but no one knows this move better than Helms. So it gets countered and Shane Helms wins the Cruiserweight belt after performing his own vertebreaker. A great moment for Shane, but it certainly wasn't his best match. I know Chavo needed to look strong to make Shane's win all the more impressive, but this came at the cost of match quality, in my opinion. Both guys are awesome, they have just had better matches. Bagwell's cameraman's getting some thoughts from Ric Flair and Jeff Jarrett. These boys saw what Dusty Rhodes said, and they certainly will not be kissing Dusty's ass tonight at Greed. Booker T then sends a message to Rick Steiner: save the drama for your mama and don't hate the player, hate the game. Absolutely nothing substantial here at all. Next, we've got Buff Bagwell and Lex Luger getting a tag team title opportunity against Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Haire, and this one has quite the surprising outcome. We get a long video package and Totally Buff take their sweet time coming down to the ring. The boys then cut another generic promo where they talk about how good they are and how successful they've been. They again mention the fact that they're responsible for retiring Bill Goldberg, which really is their only claim to fame, and the only time they might come up in a trivia question. Lex also gets his opponent's names wrong when he says Sean Palumbo and Chuck O'Haire. They try to play this off like Luger meant it, but I guarantee you, he didn't. Totally Buff say this won't take them long at all, and they were right. This is a very short match, only Totally Buff didn't win. They got annihilated by Shawn and Chuck. Buff gets knocked down to the mat by O'Haire and the champs then steamroll through the total package. This gets followed by Lex accidentally hitting his own tag team partner and Chuck decides to hand out a few jungle kicks. Sean O'Haire then goes upstairs and both Lex and Buff take the Shanton bomb, and that's it over. Lex and Bagwell got totally squashed at WCW Greed in 54 seconds. Scott Hudson calls this a changing of the guard. The match itself was shorter than Lex and Buff's promo. Utter destruction from the Power Plant boys, and you know what? I liked it. It takes Buff and Lex a lot of time to get out of the ring, and Buff's complaining about his neck. I don't think this is legit because WCW wouldn't have aired this footage after playing a Scott Steiner interview and a Kanyon vs Ernest Miller recap, though this is the last time both Lex and Buff compete in WCW. Back to that Scotty Steiner interview, and Big Poppa Pump's in the shower with Medeja. Yeah, you'd think he'd be doing something else, but instead Medeja's keeping count of his pull-ups. Scott says it's falls count anywhere in tonight's main event. DDP can't run away and Page is going to get pinned amongst his own white trash. As mentioned, a quick video recap airs that covers the Kanyon vs Ernest Miller feud so far. Basically, Kanyon's targeted Miss Jones as a way to get at Miller, and it's now time for that match next at Greed. Kanyon came out to an almost carbon copy version of the song Come Down by Bush. It was a great update to his old theme song, but of course it's been removed from the WWE Network version of Greed and it's replaced by another generic rock instrumental. Speaking of bad network dubs, Ernest Miller comes out to his shitty song and Miss Jones is here too. I guess WCW totally forgot that Miller told his valet to stay in the back tonight for her own safety. Funny too that Kanyon instantly goes after Miss Jones after Miller's pre-match promo, but Kat comes to the rescue and the fight's on. Kanyon's wearing a cast because he sprained his own wrist when attacking MI Smooth on Nitro, so Miller's got himself a target as the two fight at the ring steps. We get in the ring only for Kanyon to throw Ernest right back out, and he celebrates a bit too early too. The Cat gets back inside, Chris takes an electric chair drop, and Cat says I'm the greatest while banging Chris's head off the mat over and over again. Chris tries some mounted punches, but all he does is set himself up for even more danger. This time it's a powerbomb from Miller. Chris gets sent outside and he instantly goes after Miss Jones, so Cat has to come to his valet's rescue once again, and it's all Miller during this ringside brawl. It's all very boring, I'm sorry. Back in the ring, Kanyon performs a top rope clothesline, a suplex and a slingshot elbow drop. A middle rope famouser isn't enough to put the Cat away, so Kanyon tries a chin lock which almost kills Miller in the middle of the ring. Somehow the Cat fights out, Kanyon takes a back suplex, and Chris then falls victim to a top rope superplex. Miller then gets a chance to dance a little when performing his throat thrust and what have you, and Cat thinks he has it won after a kick to the chin, though Kanyon kicks out. Cat tries a pile driver, it gets countered, and Kanyon gingerly sets his opponent on the mat before looking for a Boston Crab. The move gets applied, though Miller doesn't give up. And when the two get to their feet, Cat's able to perform the feliner. Too much time between the finishing move and the cover allows Chris to get a foot on the bottom rope, so the match continues on with Kanyon hitting Miller on the head with a concealed weapon, and this makes Miss Jones get on the apron to protest. While the referee's back's turned, Chris attacks from behind. There's no match official as Kanyon invites Miss Jones to get in the ring, though Miller grabs Chris and he holds him in place for a Miss Jones kick. Kanyon ducks out of the way, Miller gets taken out by his own manager, and Miss Jones now wants to fight the Cat, and we think Miss Jones is done for. Fortunately, she's able to kick Kanyon, and this in turn allows Miller to perform another feliner. Ernest Miller defeats Chris Kanyon at Greed, and unfortunately, it's another poor match right here. People seem to like Ernest Miller a lot more than I do, and yeah, for sure, he's a good character and he's pretty fun. I'm just not a fan of his ring work. Kanyon tries to get some of his heat back by giving Miller a post-match flatliner, and he's just about to go after Miss Jones, though M.I. Smooth runs down for the save and Kanyon's forced to leave the ring. Totally Buffed are having an argument backstage and they decide to leave the arena. Buff's cameraman picked all this up and Bagwell's angry that this little spot was caught on film. Dusty Rhodes is eating a whole lot of burritos and he's not sure if he needs to fart or shit himself. Either way, we'll find out soon enough, but before that tag team encounter, we've got Booker T challenging Rick Steiner for the US title. These two had a pretty good opening match 2 weeks ago on Nitro, but it's looking a lot less competitive here as Rick smacks Booker so hard that the challenger falls out of the ring, and moments later Booker gets launched into the fans sitting at ringside. Rick kicks and claws at his opponent on the outside before bringing him in for a Steiner line, and Rick looks to end it with a double underhook powerbomb. It takes much more than this to keep Booker T down, and Rick's going to have to do more than scratch and claw again. So Steiner hopes a kick in the dick will get the job done. Steiner, though, is having the same issues as his brother. He's spending too much time talking smack to fans at ringside. This lack of focus allows Booker to pull off a Samoan drop, but at the same time, this isn't enough to beat the US champion. Rick comes back with a belly-to-belly, another Steiner line, and my god, show mercy Rick, it's a chinlock from the US champion, and Booker's beginning to fade away. Somehow the challenger rises to his feet and we see Book's running forearm. Rick does not want to go up for a spinebuster at all, but Booker somehow performs the move anyway, and Booker then performs the axe kick followed by a flopjack. The crowd's now on their feet as they sense the end's near, but Booker then inadvertently hits Mickey J with a Harlem sidekick. This allows Rick to capitalise with a German suplex, but there's no official to count the pinfall. We then see all-around great guy and top WCW babyface Shane Douglas appearing from the crowd. The franchise stops the Steiner Bulldog by hitting Rick with his cast, and that's the end of our match, folks. Booker T wins it with a book end, and Booker T is the new US champion. Actually, Booker T would be the final WCW US champion before the WCW buyout. This was a paint-by-the-numbers Rick Steiner match, and I thought their match on Nitro 2 weeks ago was better, honestly. But it's still fun to see a new US champion get crowned, and it's still fun to watch the crowd react positively to a match finish. Someone's taken out Buff Bagwell backstage, and Lex Luger thinks it could have been main event Road Warrior Animal. Animal reminds Lex that he too was taken out on Thunder, so it couldn't have been him. So the mystery attacker strikes again. I reckon it's Glacier or maybe complete tit Brian Knobbs. It's time for Jeff Jarrett and Ric Flair to face the Rhodes family, and yes, Rick's gonna wrestle in that shirt tonight. Jeff made fun of Dusty on Nitro by dressing up like the American Dream. Dusty promised to make someone kiss his ass after this match, and Dusty looks like he has a genuine smile on his face when making his entrance. Even Rick looks happy to see Dusty coming out for one more match. Flair snaps out of it and he gets in character. He says he's not dressed to wrestle tonight, and so Jeff's gonna wrestle this one all on his own. Turns out he was just talking nonsense, so Scott Hudson thinks Rick might be schizophrenic. Charles Robinson sends Road Warrior Animal to the back. This is going to be a fair 2-on-2 fight, and we get a tremendous amount of stalling before Dustin and Jarrett go to work inside the ropes. Jeff takes a big punch to the face and he gets his head taken off when trying a corner counter. Dustin drops down to deliver his signature uppercut, and a corner mount results in Double J taking more punches to the head as Flair looks on. At the opposite side of the ring, Jeff gets his wee chosen one smashed into the ring post. Dustin then climbs upstairs, but he ends up taking a foot to the face. In comes the Nature Boy in his sick shirt, slacks and dress shoes, and the Nature Boy gets dirty when fighting Dustin. This is Ric Flair's first official match since June 2000, and it really doesn't feel like WCW capitalised on the Nature Boy's return like they had done so well in the past. Nothing special here, Rick punches and chops his opponent, but there is a great little spot when Dustin gets launched into the ropes. Dustin holds on, Rick stays in position, and Rhodes flips Slick Rick off before Dusty tags in. There's now a great atmosphere in the building. Dusty's having fun at Rick's expense, and these two don't have to do a whole lot to get the crowd going. As a matter of fact, all Dusty has to do is deliver a shoulder block and shake his ass a little to get the audience on their feet. And these two cornerstones of WCW just stand in the ring looking at each other while the crowd goes nuts. We go to the corner where Rick takes a few chops, Dusty winds up and he delivers the elbow to both Rick and Jeff. Some flip-flop and fly action results in Rick taking another elbow, and Dusty then tags out so his son can deliver a suplex to Rick, an inverted atomic drop to Jeff, and it's now time for the Dustbuster, better known as Shattered Dreams. It's Dustin's dreams that end up getting shattered though after a low blow from the Nature Boy. From here, it's standard tag team fare with the heels making quick tags and Dusty getting desperate to save his son. Jeff softens up Dustin's knee for the Ric Flair figure 4, though Dustin counters it and Jeff has to come in to apply his own version of the move. Dustin hangs in there as both Dusty and Rick look on, the move gets turned over and Jeff makes it to the ropes, and when Jeff tries the figure 4 one more time, he gets kicked away and Jarrett takes a back suplex. Both men stay on the mat as Robinson begins his count. They make it to their corners and now Dusty and Rick are the legal men. The crowd goes nuts as Dusty uses both his left and right hands to dish out some punishment to Jarrett and Flair, and Double J has to save his partner after an elbow drop. Dusty tags out, Dustin comes in for a double clothesline and all 4 men are now in the ring. The heels get the better of their opponents with a few low blows, and now that both men are down, it's time for a double figure 4. This doesn't work out too well, seeing as the Rhodes boys kick their opponents away, and our match ends with Dustin performing a unique pin on Ric Flair. Dusty and Dustin win. Flair now has to pucker up and kiss Dusty's rear end while wearing that shirt. Rick heads to the outside and Dusty tells him to come in and give him a kiss, but Jarrett tries to attack from behind. A low blow's enough to put Jeff down and Dustin beats Jeff up in the corner, and when it's clear that Ric Flair doesn't want to kiss Dusty's ass, Jeff takes one for the team as Dusty performs a stink face. Those burritos must have worked a treat because Jeff's having a hard time breathing afterwards, and the Rhodes family celebrate in the ring while Rick apologises to his Magnificent Seven comrade. You don't go into this one expecting a classic, and if you did, you would have been terribly disappointed. It is a curious way to bring Ric Flair back to in-ring action for sure, but I'm fairly confident in saying that he only came back tonight so he could wrestle Dusty one more time. The crowd reaction helped this one a ton, but if you had no interest in Dusty or Flair, then you're going to get absolutely nothing out of this match, though you're probably also a bit of an asshole if you watch this one and complain about it. Scotty Steiner's dominated everyone in his path. Booker T, Sting, Sid, Kevin Nash. The babyfaces have all fallen victim to Big Poppa Pump, and DDP's one of the last good guys WCW has left. Yeah, Booker T did come back a few weeks ago, but Booker learnt a harsh lesson when stepping up to Big Poppa Pump. This one's a Falls Count Anywhere match. DDP promised to take Scott to Bangtown, but Scott doesn't want to go there. He may not have a choice though, as DDP starts off hot by spitting in his opponent's face. Always nice to see. And he follows with an inverted atomic drop and a neckbreaker. We won't be seeing a repeat of the tag title match though, because Scott's quick to tag out and he's quick to reply with a shoulder block. But Scott decides to talk trash to the fans at ringside and DDP performs a flying clothesline. A fight around the ringside area sees Scott taking control, and again, the fans are making a lot of noise here, even if there's only 5,000 or so in attendance. DDP attacks from the apron when Scott tries to bring him back in, so the champ decides to knock DDP down and continue the fight on the outside. The two head into the crowd. We're now among the white trash where Scott wants to get the pinfall win. There's a dude on crutches wearing a DDP shirt that's sticking out like a sore thumb. And yeah, this plant gets shoved by Scotty and the champ takes his crutch away. They couldn't have made this any more obvious. The plant throws his other crutch over to Dallas and Steiner takes a shot. The champ then gets set up on a table and DDP performs an elbow drop, though it's not enough to score a pinfall win. The fight carries on at the audience before the two head to the ramp, and there's a bit of a botch here when Scott goes to grab whatever this is from a fan, but he realises that this guy is actually the wrong fan. So he goes to the other side of the ring where he takes the same weapon away from a plant you may recognise as Paul London. The weapon gets smashed over Dallas's head, and afterwards Scott pie-faces this quote-unquote fan, though this allows DDP to take the other weapon from that other fan and Scott gets a piece of his own medicine. Page gets crushed as the two head back in the ring. Inside the ropes, it's a clothesline from Scott followed by the elbow drop. Page takes a few shots to the lower back before Steiner performs an exploder. In a busted open, Steiner talks some trash to Nick Patrick before applying a bear hug. Page gets out only to take a belly-to-belly from the world champ. The two share some corner offense only for Dallas to take yet another belly-to-belly. Scotty then stretches the challenger out as Scott Hudson reminds fans that Page is WCW's last hope right now. And the last hope performs a DDT and a clothesline as he looks to end the match and win the world belt. Page tries to soften Scott up further with a few punches. He performs a jumping DDT and he then signals for the cutter. Scott avoids the move by delivering a low blow and a DDT of his own, but seconds later Page refocuses and we see his finishing move. The match should now be over, but that no good Rick Steiner pulls the referee out of the ring, and as Page goes for the DFG, the fans chant Goldberg's name. Billy Boy is not here tonight, folks. Page gets another chance to pin Scott, but this results in the referee taking a bump. Scott tells Madeja to bring his belt into the ring, and Page gets wiped out with a belt shot. DDP's busted open pretty badly here, and even though he kicks out of Scott's cover, it's all pretty elementary from this point on. Scott tries to make Page submit with a Boston Crab, but Dallas digs deep and he grabs the bottom rope. So Scott applies the Steiner recliner, and once again, Page is able to grab the rope. Knowing he can't make Page submit, Scott has no choice but to knock Dallas out. So Rick gives him a hand by punching Dallas on the outside, and Madeja distracts the referee while Scott goes to work with his big lead pipe. No idea why the referee needs distracted, seeing as it's a false count anywhere match, but that's it over. Dallas has been knocked out cold and he's unable to continue. So Scotty Steiner dominates another main event babyface, and Scott Steiner reigns supreme at WCW Greed. Not a great main event, but if you like this era of Big Poppa Pump, then you'll get something out of it for sure. You get all of Scott's signature moves and you see him destroy another big name, which is all well and good. I'm maybe getting to the point where I've seen it one too many times, but it was still pretty entertaining. In the year 2001, WCW have improved with each passing month when it comes to pay-per-views. Sin was god-awful, Super Brawl Revenge wasn't great but I thought it was watchable, and Greed again was nothing special but it was better than Super Brawl Revenge. The opener was fantastic, the Cruiserweight tag match was good too. There was a big dip in quality after these two matches, but I liked the surprise ending of the tag team title match, and taking it for what it is, I enjoyed seeing Dustin and Flair in the ring one last time on a WCW pay-per-view. Again, it wasn't a brilliant match or anything, it's just knowing that this is the end makes it a bit more noteworthy in hindsight. No big surprises in the main event, which isn't a bad thing, though it's not necessarily a good thing either. But the fact remains that WCW Greed is an improvement over the last lot of WCW pay-per-views, so yeah, it's alright. I don't do ratings, but if I was marking it out of 10, I'd give it a 5. Right down the middle, brother. But that's it everyone, the final WCW pay-per-view ever produced and the last WCW pay-per-view of Reliving the War. Tomorrow night on Nitro there's going to be a massive announcement getting made. It's going to be the last traditional head-to-head Nitro we watch alongside Raw before the final Nitro, so join me on Thursday to see what happens. Thanks for watching everyone, and please take care.